So yeah, welcome to the SPSCC Art Creative Something, where we hear from local creatives of all sorts, from fine arts to comedy to writing to music. I want to introduce Pamela Davis. Pamela Davis is a metalsmith among a variety of skills. In addition to her practice, she is also currently the studio technician at the Evergreen State College Fine Metal Studio and the program administrator at Arbutus Folk School. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Pamela.
Thank you, Nicole. Hello, everyone. Thanks for showing up. I'm going to, well, I'll do my best to show my studio space. I have my phone in a stand, so I'll see how well I can rotate it to just show you. This is a small room. Fine metal smithing doesn't take a lot of space, but I'll just give you an idea of what I've got going on in this space. And then I'm going to show you a few pictures of my work so you can get an idea of what my work looks like. And then I'm going to just do a really quick silversmithing demo. I'm going to do some really simple silver stacking rings like the ones I have on my finger here right now. And then after that, I'll take some questions and comments. So, whoops. So first of all, you'll see right here in front of me, this is my bench. This is where I work. This is my solder station here. I just have like a cookie sheet. I have a couple different surfaces that I use for soldering, and I'll kind of talk about those when I start my soldering. I have the most important piece of equipment I have is, you'll see the motor up here. This is my flex shaft. It's a Fordham flex shaft. The hand piece is hanging right down here. This is used, it's a rotary tool. It's, a lot of people know about Dremel tools. It's like that, but it's fancier, and it's more powerful, essentially. So I have on my bench as well, you can see all this clutter. It's very useful clutter. I keep the tools that I use the most, I want them ready at hand. So I have those things there. You can see on the wall here, I have all my wire. I have spools of wire. I work in silver, brass, and sometimes gold, pretty much just for custom orders when it comes to gold, because it's so incredibly expensive. I don't keep it on hand. Now let's see if I can rotate this stand without my phone falling or making you all incredibly dizzy. So you'll see back in this corner, I have some more stuff on the wall, on a wall organizer. I have my tools, cutting tools, hammers, and some stone setting tools as well. And then I have this really sweet manual rolling mill, which I can roll. I can thin sheet metal in it. I can texture sheet metal. I can thin wire in it as well, flatten wire, and also thin wire, because there is a section that is various increments of wire thickness that I can roll it through. So, and then I'm gonna turn you this way. Right here, I have a very heavy duty drill press right behind this buffing machine here. So that's pretty much it. So the picture on the left is one of the first projects I did. It's a stacked and riveted ring. That was the first metalsmithing class that I took, and that was the project that I liked the most that came out of that class. It's not very indicative of the work I do presently, but it is a design I go back to, and I did start doing a sterling silver version of this ring recently that I haven't finished. And then the photo on the right, I wanted to share because the chain that you see is a double loop and loop chain. This is all done by hand by weaving really tiny fine silver jump rings together, shaping them and weaving them together. It's extremely time consuming, but it's an ancient metalsmithing technique that is found across the world. This is a class that I teach when, you know, before the pandemic, I would teach it from time to time at Arbutus Folk School. The stud earrings you see in front of it, I wanted to showcase because I end up with a lot of scrap, like fine silver scrap and sterling silver, and all the silver I buy is recycled. And then with the scrap, I will reuse it. I haven't, there are places that have recycling services for fine metals, but I like to just go ahead and melt it down and make my own creations with it. So those are samples of some of the things I do with my scrap metal that I'm left over with after other projects. Next slide. These rings here, the two on the left side, these are all very recent items I've made. The two on the left are custom rings I made for my friends, their promise rings. They found these perfectly smooth agates on the beach, and they wanted me to set them in sterling silver. So those are the designs I came up with for their stones. The ring on the right is an example of the rings I've been making fairly often in the last year. This one is a rainbow moonstone set in sterling. Next slide. And this work here, I wanted to show because on the left, these earrings on the left are some of my most popular styles. So this is an example of the production work I do. So I make a lot of these styles, and I do, you know, during normal times, I would be doing a lot of markets right now, but obviously I don't have, there aren't any in-person markets going on. And so mostly it's wholesale I've been doing, although that's been pretty slow too, understandably. But that's an example of the things that I make over and over. On the left side, these are examples of things that are more either just a few here and there, or just they're one-offs. The earrings, which they're the kind of curvy sheets, those have been cast using the lost cast method. And I created an alloy called shibuichi to cast those in. You can play around with the percentage, but it's a copper and fine silver alloy. And I used 40% fine silver and 60% copper. So you get this kind of pinkish sheen to it. It's still silvery, but I really like that pink sheen. And then the chain is another example of a handmade chain, which is somewhat time consuming, but nothing near the length of time it takes to make the double loop and loop chain in a couple slides previous. Thanks, Nicole. Next slide. These are examples of two new styles. As I show you more of the production work I do, you'll probably notice that I really enjoy playing with lines. I like the multiple curves. I like, on the left, I've been playing with this idea of trying to create this illusion of metal looking like fiber, like string. Next slide. And here are two examples of rings, wedding rings that I made custom for people. This is some of a couple examples of working in gold, which I haven't done a lot of, like I was saying. But the one on the left is a rutilated quartz set in 14 karat gold with a gold band with a hammered texture. And the ring on the right is a morganite set in 14 karat gold. Next slide. So if you want to look at more of my work, you can visit my website, which you'll see right there, or you can follow me on Instagram. And yeah, I think that's it for the little talk I'm gonna do. I think that I will start with the demo now. And I'm gonna angle my camera. If you're having issues seeing what I'm doing, please chime in and let me know, and I'll do my best to adjust the camera. Okay, so for those who just joined, I'm about to start a quick silversmithing demo. I am going to demonstrate how to make some simple sterling silver stacking rings like the ones I have on my fingers, or on my finger rather. I'm not sure how well you can see these, but one of them has a hammered texture. The other is just a smooth round band. So I am using some 14 gauge sterling silver wire. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put on my safety glasses because I like my eyesight. So I'm just going to cut a length of this with my cutters here. And then, so I'm going to make a few all at once in a variety of sizes. And I'm not actually shooting for a specific size. If I were trying to go for a specific size, I would have to be much more precise. I would consult a chart that tells me the length I need for the type of gauge I'm using for the size. And then I would mark that, and I would saw that length off, and then I would form the ring. But because I want to make a few at a time, I am going to create a coil and saw that, and I'm going to make a variety of sizes. So I'm going to use this tapered ring mandrel so that I can get a few different sizes out of this. Now, I'm just going to wrap this around, and I know that hammering, adding the hammered texture is going to increase the rings I do that to by about 1 size. So I'm starting at around 7.5, and it's going to decrease a little as the taper goes up, but I should end up with a nice range. So I've got my coil here, but the ends are kind of sticking up. So I want to get those down so it's easier for me to saw through this coil. So I'm going to use a leather mallet. If I used metal on metal, it would leave a mark and it would stretch the metal, but this will just help me form it and won't manipulate the sides. So that looks pretty good. So now I have a coil and I am ready to saw through this. So I'll end up with my rings. I'm gonna move my bench pin over here so you all can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I've got my coil. I'm just fitting it on this, thinking that will be the best way to hold it in place. I've got my jeweler's saw here. I already have the saw blade in, and I'm just gonna check the tension, which I do by checking the sound, and it sounds good. Sounds nice and taut. Whenever you're cutting through metal with a tool, you want to use some sort of lubricant. I'm using this wax-like substance here. It's called Bird Life. You can use a bar of soap. You could use a candle, just beeswax. All of that works. So I'm just sawing through my coil. I hope that the sound isn't too unpleasant on your end.
I kind of like the sound of the sawing of metal, but it does sometimes it does kind of like compensate for the louder noise and quiet it down a little.
Okay, there we go. All right. So I got 4 rings out of that little coil. Let me go ahead and move my bench pin out of the way again. So now I want to set these up to solder them. And the reason I saw through these rather than using the cutters is because I want this clean joint, and the connection needs to be tight without any space in between. So what I'm doing here to get that nice connection is I am over closing. I am going back and forth. And I know this is kind of hard to see, but I am over closing the jump ring. So imagine this is the connection. So I'm going like that, coming back and going like that. So the because I'm going back and forth, the metal memory causes the ends to want to meet in the middle. And then I'm over closing so that when they do go back to meet in the middle, there's a nice tension. And that will make for a very nice solder connection. Now, I'm just going to do a few of these. So the type of soldering that I do is silver soldering. That's what most jewelers do. There are 3 different types of solder, or there are more, but generally I just use easy solder, medium solder, or hard solder. And the easy being the one with the lowest melting temperature and hard being the one with the highest melting temperature. I'm using a medium. And you can, I have this just little wire of it, and I just need the tiniest little clipping, because you're not filling in a gap with solder. The solder is joining the 2 ends. This here is flux. Now, sterling silver, you may have seen on your sterling silver jewelry a stamp that says 0.925, which means 0.925 of that metal is fine silver, and the rest is copper. And they add a little copper because fine silver is extremely soft and malleable. Adding a little copper makes it harder, so it retains its form better. But the addition of copper means that when you heat it up, it will create oxides. So that when the oxides build on there, the solder does not want to flow. So you can't solder dirty metal. It has to be clean. Okay, I'm all set up here. I'm going to go ahead and start my torch. I don't have like a tank set up. I just use these little butane torches. They work perfectly fine for the small pieces that I do. If I did bigger stuff, I would need to get a torch set up. But, okay, so this is my solder pick. The first thing I do is I am going to get a little piece of solder to stick to that, so that when the piece is ready, I'm ready with the solder. So this is going to go pretty fast because I have this on a charcoal block. The charcoal block reflects heat back, so the metal heats up much quicker. This is a solderite pad. That would go a little slower, which for certain things is better when you need a little more control. But for this, I just want to get it done really quickly. And I'm pretty much there. So I'm going to drop that down there, and there it goes. It flowed. So I'm going to pick up my next piece. And then go ahead and start heating the next ring. And that one went. All right. So I have a little pan with water over here. This is my quenching pot so that I can quench it so it cools off quickly. I'll just go ahead and show you how this looks now. You can see how dirty the silver gets, but you can see that it's still clean around where I put the flux for the solder connection. So before you continue working on a piece that has oxides, you want to clean those oxides off. The way you clean off oxides, there's a pickle solution. It's called a pickle solution, and you can actually use salt and vinegar. Heating it up makes it go much quicker, and it works perfectly fine, though you can get chemical solutions. I use both. I sometimes use just salt and vinegar, but I sometimes get the chemical, the name brand chemical solution, because you can do different types of pickle baths with it. It's a little more versatile. So anyway, I am not going to make you wait for those to sit in the pickle solution, because that's over in my bathroom. It needs to be near a sink. But I have pre-made a couple rings already, so I can show you what I do once I've cleaned them in the pickle solution. So the first thing I want to do, solder is an alloy of silver, zinc, and copper. So it's going to look a little different than the silver. So what I want to do is I want to clean that off. I want to get rid of any of it that flowed on the surface of my ring. So once again, I need my bench pin. So I'm going to move that over here. Oh, good. Thanks. So I'm going to file this off. I have these this set of little needle files is what they're called, for really getting into small spaces. And I need a flat one, and I also need a slightly rounded one. Okay. So I'm just going to file along the top with the flat. When you're going over a convex curve, you want a flat file. And then for the inside, for the concave curve. Did I get that right? I feel like I always mix those up. But I'm using the slightly rounded file for the inside of the ring to get rid of that solder, that excess solder.
I asked Google and it said concave is like the inside of a bowl.
Yes, I got it right.
Okay. I never know either. Frankly, even as I read that, I still was like, which one is which?
Yeah. Okay, so I've gotten rid of the excess solder, but I have all these somewhat aggressive file marks on there. So I'm going to, this is an abrasive, but it's a really fine one. It's one of those 3M pads that's made specifically for this flex shaft or for this type of rotary tool. So this has a pedal, so I can control the speed of it. And I'm just going to clean this up even more and get rid of those file marks. I'm going to go across the whole thing so the entire ring looks the same, has the same type of finish. Okay, looks good. So now, before I put the hammer texture in, often when during the process, the ring gets a little bit distorted and I can tell this isn't quite perfectly round. I don't know if you can see the gaps in there on different places. So I'm just going to round this out and I'll use my leather mallet once again. I'm just going to stabilize it with my bench pin here. Okay, looks good. And now for the texturing. So I have this this hammer here that has the ball on one end. It's actually a chasing hammer, which usually I wouldn't use for this, but this is like my not so nice chasing hammer. And it's going to be a pretty gentle tapping that I'm doing. And the reason a chasing hammer has like this skinny little neck, because you use it in chasing and repoussé, and it kind of springs back because it has this little neck. But because of the skinny neck, it can snap easily. So you want to think about what you're using it for, but this should be fine. And like I said, I have a much nicer chasing hammer that I wouldn't use for this. So I'm just going to go around and tap on this. This might be a little loud going through, I don't know, but if you want to mute me, go ahead if the sound's bothering you. I just want to give you a little warning. Okay. Oh, and also I want to say right now, this is a size 8.5, and I'm going to just pay attention to how much the size increases as I texture it. All right. So that looks like it increased it a half size. It's a size 9 now. But yeah, that's the process to make a simple sterling hammer textured band. And as you can see, I'm accumulating a lot of these.
Great. Are you ready for some questions now, Pamela?
Yeah, yes, I am.
All right. So I'm on my screen. I'm moving us back to gallery view. So it looks like we're all in the room together. But you might need to control that on your own screen. And it looks like Anna raised her hand.
Yay. Oh, Pamela, I'm so happy you did this. I'm such a big fan and it's so cool. I had a question. You said something that really sparked my interest with like metal memory. Can you talk about that more? That's fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll talk about it as in the way I understand it, which might not be the like actual scientific. I mean, some of it is, but so the more you move metal around, the more it wants to go back to like the shape that you put it in. And as you work with metal, it becomes harder and harder. And that has to do with the crystalline structure. When the metal's soft, the crystals are all kind of just chaotically spread around. So there are like spaces in between them, kind of random spaces in between them. But as you work with it, they get more and more organized. So there's less larger spaces, and you lose that malleability. So I think as you work with it, as you move it around, it becomes more rigid, and so it kind of wants to go back to where it was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and you can like you can anneal it once it gets too hard, and it's lost its malleability. You can anneal it by like heating it up to a certain temperature. So I would do that with a torch, and then it would get soft again. It would just like, you know, mess up all those crystals and move them around again. So
wow, that's so cool. And that's like what you said about recycling some of the silver scraps, as you'd heat them up again and make them into something else.
Those I just melt them all together.
Oh, okay.
I could probably show you that really quickly. I have a bunch of scrap here.
Yeah. Is that okay with the
you want to see
everybody?
it?
Yeah, I do. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I actually, let's see, where's my,
I'm spotlighting you again, Pamela.
oh, okay. Yeah, I just need a second to get set up here, but yeah.
Sure. And if anyone has questions, you can get ready to ask, you can ask them.
Okay. So these, I'm going to use some fine silver scrap. It's so fine silver is so lovely to work with because I don't need to use flux because it doesn't, the heat won't create oxides. So I can just melt it together and it will be nice and clean. So I have these scraps, which I end up with these, a lot of these when I'm making the double loop and loop chain. So I keep them and eventually I'll melt them down. So I just kind of crumple them up, and I have, I've carved like this little square in this charcoal block, which it's kind of losing its form. So I probably need to carve a new one, but I'll just like let you get the idea of what this looks like. And I need this block here. So, and this should happen pretty quickly because this is really thin wire. So it's already starting to melt, and it should just kind of, yeah, it'll ball up like that. And then I'll just put another flat charcoal block on it and to smash it in there. And there it is. It's stuck to that side for some reason. But as you can probably see, it's just really nice and shiny. It's not dirty. It's just beautiful, shiny silver.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, that's, yeah. And then, so I've been doing these. This one's pretty round, but I've kind of carved some squares in there, and I get a slightly square shape. But yeah, and then I just solder a silver ear post on them, and then you've got an earring.
That's so beautiful.
There was another question in the comments
Okay,
from JJ. And they asked, where can one find Pamela's creations? Which I was going to ask eventually. Yeah, where can we find you?
You can find me on my website, which is muchodesignjewelry.com. Do you want to put that in the chat, Nicole? I'm using my phone, so it's not really easy for me to type. You can also, here in town, my jewelry is sold through Compass Rose. And then in Tacoma, Lapis has my jewelry, and Portland, Carter and Rose. And then up in Seattle, Butter Home. And I think those are the shops right now. Like I said, wholesale has, you know, understandably slowed down a bit.
What was the shop in Portland?
Carter and Rose.
Any other questions? Sorry, there was a little bit of feedback, so I did mute a few people. You are welcome to unmute. I just did it to try to control the audio quality. All right, and so we can also sometimes find you, well, maybe after the pandemic is over, at Arbutus, if we want to maybe learn from you.
I'm hoping I'll be able to teach that class again once we get through all of this, but yeah.
Cool. All right. So some cute emojis in the, oh yeah, from Hillary, some
Hi, Hillary. You made
affirmative
it.
emojis. All right. Yeah. Thank you, Pamela. That was amazing. I think that's going to be such a good resource for our students in the future. And I just want to give you a round of applause.
Yay!
Thank you, everyone.
Yay!
Thanks for coming.